This conversation is powered by Google Illuminate. Check out illuminate.google.com for more. Welcome to the discussion. Today we're tackling a topic that often leaves hams scratching their heads: standing wave ratio, or SWR. It's a concept many understand vaguely, but few truly grasp. What are your initial thoughts on the common misconceptions surrounding SWR?
Many hams obsess over achieving a perfect 1-1 SWR, believing it's the ultimate goal. But the reality is far more nuanced. A low SWR is desirable, but it's not the only factor determining efficient transmission.
Exactly. Many believe high SWR automatically means significant power loss. Is that always true?
Not at all. The impact of SWR depends heavily on other factors, such as the transmission line's length and loss.
So let's dive into the fundamentals. What exactly is SWR and how can we understand it intuitively?
SWR, or voltage standing wave ratio, describes the ratio of the maximum to minimum voltage along a transmission line. Think of it like an echo. When a signal reaches the antenna, some energy is reflected back if there's an impedance mismatch. The interaction between the forward and reflected waves creates standing waves.
So a perfect match, 50 ohm antenna on 50 ohm coax, means no reflection, and thus 1-1 SWR. But what happens when the impedance doesn't match?
With a mismatch, you get reflections. A 2-1 SWR, for example, means about 33% of the voltage is reflected back towards the transmitter. This creates those peaks and valleys in voltage along the line.
Many hams fear power loss with high SWR. Is this a valid concern?
It's a valid concern, but not always a significant one. In a lossless transmission line, all power is eventually radiated, even with reflections. The problem arises with lossy lines. The reflections bounce back and forth, losing energy with each pass.
So the transmission line itself becomes a factor. Can you elaborate on the role of line loss?
Absolutely. A lossy line attenuates both the forward and reflected waves. High SWR increases the number of reflections, leading to greater overall loss. This is why a high SWR on a long, lossy coax can be problematic.
The article uses charts to illustrate the relationship between SWR and loss. How helpful are these in practical scenarios?
Extremely helpful. These charts allow you to estimate the additional loss introduced by a given SWR, considering the inherent loss of your transmission line. You can then determine the actual power reaching the antenna.
So if I know my cable's lost at a 1-1 SWR and consult the chart for my measured SWR, I can estimate the total loss?
Precisely. This allows for a realistic assessment of antenna system efficiency.
The article also mentions the Smith chart. Can you explain its significance in SWR analysis?
The Smith chart is a graphical tool that simplifies impedance matching calculations. It allows you to visualize impedance transformations along a transmission line and determine the SWR for complex loads, those with both resistive and reactive components.
So it's not just for resistive loads?
No, it handles complex impedances, which are far more common in real-world antenna systems. It's a powerful tool for antenna designers and those who want a deeper understanding of impedance matching.
The article highlights a crucial point: measuring SWR at the transmitter versus at the antenna. Why is this distinction important?
Measuring SWR at the transmitter can be misleading, especially with long, lossy lines. The reflections may be significantly attenuated by the time they reach the transmitter, giving a falsely optimistic reading. The true SWR at the antenna might be far worse.
So a seemingly acceptable SWR at the transmitter could mask significant power loss at the antenna?
Absolutely. This is why it's crucial to measure SWR at the antenna, especially with longer cable runs.
The article also discusses ladder line. Why is it often preferred for high SWR situations?
Ladder line has very low loss, especially at HF frequencies. This means that even with significant reflections, a larger percentage of the power reaches the antenna. The reflections are attenuated less, allowing more energy to radiate.
So the low loss of ladder line compensates for the high SWR, making it a viable option?
Exactly. Combined with a tuner at the transmitter, ladder line can be highly effective even with high SWR antennas.
Let's summarize the key takeaways. What are the most important things hams should remember about SWR?
First, understand that SWR is not the sole indicator of antenna system efficiency. Line loss plays a crucial role. Second, measure SWR at the antenna, not just at the transmitter, especially with long cable runs. Third, consider the characteristics of your transmission line when evaluating SWR's impact.
So a low SWR is desirable, but it's not the end-all be-all?
Precisely. A well-designed antenna system with a slightly higher SWR on low loss line can outperform a poorly designed system with a perfect 1-1 SWR on a lossy line.
That's a great point to emphasize. It's about the whole system, not just one number. Are there any other factors that hams should consider when dealing with SWR?
Yes, the frequency is important. Antennas often exhibit different SWRs across a band. Also, the type of antenna and its design significantly impact SWR. A well-designed antenna for a specific band will generally have a lower SWR than a poorly designed or mismatched one.
So understanding the antenna's characteristics is just as important as understanding the transmission line's characteristics?
Absolutely. The interaction between the two determines the overall system performance.
What are some common causes of high SWR, and how can hams troubleshoot them?
High SWR often indicates a mismatch between the antenna and the transmission line. This could be due to a faulty antenna, incorrect installation, or a problem with the feed line itself. Troubleshooting involves checking connections, inspecting the antenna for damage, and using an antenna analyzer to measure impedance.
So a systematic approach is key to identifying the source of the problem.
Absolutely. Start with the simplest checks and gradually move to more complex diagnostics.
Why is it so important for hams to understand SWR?
Understanding SWR allows hams to optimize their antenna systems for maximum efficiency and minimize power loss. It helps them troubleshoot problems and ensure reliable communication. It's a fundamental aspect of radio operation.
So it's not just about chasing a number, but about understanding the underlying principles.
Exactly. It's about understanding the entire system and how its components interact.
Are there any more advanced topics related to SWR that you'd like to touch upon?
One interesting aspect is the effect of long transmission lines on SWR measurements. As mentioned earlier, significant attenuation in a long line can mask a high SWR at the antenna. Also, the concept of impedance matching networks and how they transform impedance to achieve a better match is a fascinating area.
So there's always more to learn in this field.
Absolutely. SWR is a complex topic with many nuances. Continuous learning and experimentation are key to mastering it. In short, while a low SWR is generally desirable, it's crucial to understand the interplay between SWR, transmission line loss, and antenna characteristics to optimize your system for efficient operation. Don't just chase the number, understand the physics behind it.
That was a great discussion. Thank you for sharing your expertise.